Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to race number 18 of Season 5. We're at the halfway point of Season 5 here for the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the Pepsi 400 here at Daytona International Speedway. We're back to where we began, and we've got quite an interesting race for you here tonight. But before we take a look at the starting lineup, we have to take a look at the point standings as they stand coming into this race. Because after this race, I believe we have 8 races left until the chase begins. So time's starting to run out for some drivers to try and get into the top 10 in points. But speaking of the top 10 in points, after last week at Old Spice, Joshua Collard, his points lead got cut in a big way, and he only leads by 5 points over last week's winner, Dylan Jacobs. 3rd, Carson Gump. 4th, Paul Minnick. 5th, Benjamin Miles. 6th, Sean Galligan. 7th, Dylan Poteet. 8th, Dougie Shears. 9th, Dylan Young. And then 10th, Jake Rogers. So that is currently the top 10 in points as they stand going into the race here tonight. As far as who were the big losers and winners in the points after last week at Old Spice, the big winner, there was actually 2 big winners, 2 people who moved up 6 spots respectively. Rafael LeDuc and Jake Baskinger both moved up from 22nd to 16th and from 34th to 28th respectively. Biggest loser in the point standings was DJ Curtis, who fell from 10th to 17th after Old Spice. But this is a great chance for anybody to earn a win and hopefully give some confidence boost to drivers who are desperate to try and get into this season's chase. But let's take a look at the starting lineup. Starting in the last row, we got Zachary Fitzwater and Emmanuel Hartnett. Top 10, James McLeod is on the pole for tonight. I believe, yeah, that's his 2nd pole this season, so he joins teammate Dylan Poteet as the only one of 2 drivers to get a pole twice. Right next to him is Jake Rogers, and then the next 3, Retro Racing Enterprises had a pretty solid qualifying effort, minus 1 driver, Charles Sanford. But row 2 is Jessica Sheldon, James Qualls. Row 3, Kyle Matthews, Dougie Shears. Row 4, Seth Cole, Carson Gum. And then row 5, Jonathan Zorline and Colin Francis. But let's go ahead and get the command to fire engines for the Pepsi 400 here at Daytona.
Drivers, start your engines!
Well, all 40 drivers rolling for their 1 pace lap around here. So this race is going to be interesting considering I've done some I&I changes, whereas before, when we would come here to Daytona, typically in turns 3 and 4, we would always see anybody in the middle lane go down and try and pinch the bottom lane. However, I found the issue, and we've actually got that fixed. And so we shouldn't expect that too much. However, there is going to be a new element of unpredictability as far as the bottom lane drivers, because from what I've seen in the tests I've done before recording, was the bottom lane is going to cling on to that yellow line quite a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers are going to be able to maneuver around the racetrack with all these new changes, and the fact that now the middle lane won't pinch the bottom lane nearly as much. Maybe every once in a while they will, but they shouldn't. We'll keep our eyes out for that, hopefully, if we have a long green flag run. The big one's still going to be a big threat regardless of what we do, but the pace car is in pit road, so you know what time it is. It's time to boogity 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 go racing! Already we're off to a phenomenal start. 3 wide for the lead, and it was the middle lane that prevailed at the line, and it was James McLeod who started on the pole and got that lap led just barely, as they are still 3 wide, although I see 4 wide back there. Oh man, let me go back here. Okay, I think, yeah, they finally did settle it out to 3 wide. I was afraid we were going to get the big one right there. But yeah, one thing I'm noticing so far right now, the bottom lane hasn't really kicked in quite just yet. Maybe they're, because of the fact that, like I said, those bottom lane drivers are going to end up touching the yellow line quite a bit. They are going to end up scrubbing off a tiny bit of speed, and that's what's going to shake up the whole race as far as what lane drivers are going to be one to race with. Jake Rogers led that time, but here comes James Qualls with a run to the inside. Also, I forgot to mention another element of challenge for like the outside line drivers, the very high line. If they run way too up high off of a corner, they could end up scraping the wall. So we got to keep our eyes out for that. Oh, they're beating and banging back there between Jessica Sheldon and Dougie Shears, but they keep it together. I thought we were going to get the big one right there. But 3 wide, many rows deep. It's been quite a while since we've seen this good of action, this good of racing here at Daytona in quite some time. But at the line, it was Diego Yepes. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Who led that lap. James Qualls actually trying to lead the outside lane to try and get to the race lead. And right now, he's able to hang on to it for right now. That outside lane kicking in. Pretty much what I've noticed, depending on how many cars you have at a certain lane, any lane can really get momentum going. Like in the first lap, it was the middle lane. Then a lap or so later, it was the bottom. Right now, the top lane's starting to prevail. But right now, James Qualls has the race lead, and he actually has a bit of a gap between himself and Jake Rogers, which is not a good thing, as of course most of you would already know. But Jessica Sheldon and Kyle Matthews, Seth Cole, among others, have been clinging to the bottom, but just have not been able to get some of that momentum going right now. And in fact, the top 3 have sort of broken away from that 3 wide chaos. Joshua Collard, the points leaders up here. Jake Rogers and James Qualls. As meanwhile, it's still 3 wide with Sheldon, McLeod, and Jay Jefferson right now up on the leading the outside line. But right now, it's looking like now the bottom's starting to kick in a little bit. Sheldon getting a little bit of footing right there on the bottom. Although now the outside's starting to kick up, because I saw Dylan Jacobs go up to the outside, and that sort of gave them a bit of momentum right there. Now they have caught the top 3 again, so now things are about to get really racy up here. Qualls still holding on right now. But yeah, I noticed Dylan Jacobs, yeah, he started in the back of the field, and he's currently running in the back, but he's still up here in the pack. A lot of rhymes right there, which is very weird. I almost thought there was a wreck back there, which is why I checked. But yeah, James Qualls trying to mirror drive right now. However, now he's just left the bottom open for Jake Rogers to make a move. As we are a quarter of the way through this race, and now Jake Rogers has the lead back. As people are starting to swap lanes right now before our very eyes. Right now, Rogers with that lead. Benjamin Miles now up here to second. Now he's going to pull out and get in front of Diego Yepes to try and get that run on the inside line to take the lead for himself. But so far, really good racing and clean racing at that. But there's still the ominous threat of the big one that could occur at any moment, depending on how these drivers are going to be racing each other for the rest of the race. But now Miles has the lead, and his teammate Chris Dollarton trying to get up there to make it 1-2 for Young Motorsports. And speaking of Young Motorsports, there's the third guy, and the owner, Dylan Young, was the 5th car in line on the bottom, but he's up here in the top 10 right now. So all 3 Young Motorsports drivers in the top 10 right now top 5, but Dollarton's going to try and take the lead for himself. And Dollarton actually making a run for it, and he clears Miles for the race lead. But here comes Dylan Young, the other Young Motorsports driver, and Carson Gum. Carson Gum, who closed in on the points lead after Old Spice. He was only 12 points out heading into this race. But right now, he's kind of by himself, even though Qualls is reaching in there to try and give him a push. It's not really working out for him right now. But right now, Young Motorsports run 1, 2, and 4. Maybe not anymore. Oh my goodness, this is definitely gonna be bad. Qualls and Shears are together. But how are they not wrecking and go? Now there they go. There they go. The big one has struck here at Daytona. Major front end damage to Trent Dunham, I saw. Tim Fiegel, his teammate, was in it. James Shelley, I see, with damage. I was just waiting for it to happen, and it's finally happened. The big one has struck. Rafael Leduc's got damage. Man, he's just not been able to catch a break when it comes to trying to avoid wrecks. Jessica Shelton, who was hoping to sweep the points races here at Daytona and go for 2 in a row here. She won the Daytona 500, but I saw she took a hard hit into the outside wall, so no surprise that she's out of the race. But Dylan Young, through all that chaos, managed to somehow, someway get the race lead. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the replay of what brought the caution out for the first time tonight here at Daytona. So here's a look at what happens. So it looks like James Qualls, because he's getting a momentum push from Jake Rogers a little bit right there, he ends up making it 4 wide. And Dougie Shears is on the bottom, and Qualls ends up forcing Shears below, now totally below the double yellow line, and they get together. Jay Jefferson got a little bit sideways from, like, aero contact, but saved it. But somehow, someway, for so long, we avoided having that wreck occur when these two kept getting together. But then Shears just ends up upset at Qualls and ends up kind of turning him sideways, and then you're going to see Qualls come back up and collect Shears again, and then up they go into Sheldon and Matt McIntyre, Trent Dunham, Tim Fiegel, Zachary Fitzwater, and then you're going to see Shelton slide back down, and then Fiegel down into Shelley, who also collects Dylan Poteet and Colin Francis, and then back there with Fitzwater. There you see the contact with Leduc, and Leduc ended up damaged. And I even see a little buckle on Charles Sanford's car. But a lot of cars in the back managed to avoid, like Joshua Cooley, Preston Plord and company, managed to slow down enough to avoid everything. So, yeah, the big one strikes here at Daytona, and let's go ahead and take you to the restart once again here at Daytona. So after that big one struck, we got 6 cars out of the race, and the lucky one was Matt McIntyre. He's still going to be able to get points. But the bottom 5 for this week are James Shelley, Rafael Leduc, Jessica Sheldon, Trent Dunham, and Tim Fiegel. So when we get to the line, it will be 11 laps to go here in the Pepsi 400. But despite all that chaos, Dylan Young is your race leader. Second is teammate Chris Dollarton. Third, Diego Yepes. Fourth, Jay Jefferson. Fifth, Carson Gum. 6th, Benjamin Miles. 7th, Jake Rogers. 8th, Anthony McCrory. 9th, James McLeod. 10th, Joshua Collard. 11th, Paul Minnick. 12th, Dylan Thoreau. 13th, Patrick Smith. 14th, DJ Curtis. 15th, Dougie Shears. 16th, Kyle Matthews. 17th, Seth Cole. 18th, Jake Baskinger. 19th, Ethan Hoffman. 20th, Cody Lamas. 21st, Joshua Cooley. 22nd, Preston Plord. 23rd, Dylan Jacobs. 24th, Sean Galligan. 25th, Alex Strayton. 26th, Emmanuel Hartnett. 27th, Ryan Butcher. 28th, Charles Sanford. 29th, Colin Phillips. 30th, Jonathan Zorline, and then Zachary Fitzwater, Dylan Poteet, James Qualls, And Cullen Francis rounds out your field. And the green flag is back out, and we're back underway at Daytona. Already some drivers going to the bottom to try and get a run going, but we got a bit of a tandem up here between Young and Dollarton working together. Although this will be the last season these two are going to be teammates. In fact, it's going to be Johnny Gardner replacing Chris Dollarton in the 12 next season. Dollarton's going to move to Backmarker Motorsports in the number 83, as the 83 will no longer be for Red Bull Racing, and that's still in the question of where Dougie Shears could end up, or is he ever coming back? Still don't have an answer to that question quite just yet. But it's taking a little bit of time for drivers to kind of get together to get different lanes going, as I'm looking to see who all's off the pace, and I see Qualls, Fitzwater, Francis are off the pace. Zorline and Poteet's kind of questionable, same with Sanford and Phillips. And maybe Shears too. And that might be why Shears could be holding up the 78 right now. That, or they're just still shuffling around and they're just losing speed. But we had a very, very fun first half, but we're seeing here in the second half, due to that caution coming out, drivers are having a little bit of a tougher time trying to get forming their lines. Sorry about that. Trying to get their respective lines formed so that way they can get some momentum going. It's taking a little bit more time considering we had a single file restart right there. There aren't any double file restarts. But I think, yeah, Dougie Shears is off the pace, and that's why these guys are actually starting to lose the pack a little bit. They're going to have, well, I was hoping they were going to stay single file so that way they could catch back up here. That, or they're going to have to hope for everyone up here to get really racy, and they're 4 wide again. Oh, can they hold it, though? And it looks like they will, which is kind of a miracle that they were able to hold on to a 4 wide situation right there. This is right around 22nd. Yeah, around 22nd back here is where they're losing the pack. And, yeah, I think it's safe to say those guys aren't going to be able to race up here unless another caution were to come out and see what happens. But now Young Motorsports are completely dominating now, because now they're running 1, 2, and 3, although Miles, he thought about going underneath Dollarton, but it is going to actually end up falling in line behind him. So all 3 Young Motorsports drivers are working very well together, which is kind of interesting to say the very least. And just as Patrick Smith was going to stick his nose on the bomb to break that up, he gets the door shut on him. But now they're going to start splitting off, as Miles is feeling like he wants to win really, really, really badly, as he pulls up in front of Dollarton. So now it's Young, Miles, and Dollarton. But although 2 Roush Racing teammates were working together, Dylan Thoreau in the 17 and Ethan Hoffman in the 99, but they've broken up. At least they've broken up the Young Motorsports train, although Dylan Young still holds the race lead. But yeah, it looks like it's going to come down to the top 20 as far as who is going to win this race, because from 21st on back, yeah, it doesn't look like anything's going to happen. Actually, top 21, 22nd on back isn't really going to be a factor. But we still got Fords up here at the front, but for different teams. You got Young Motorsports, Roush Racing, Stewart Haas Racing. Eventually, most of these team names are going to be changed as we're going in a different direction for Season 6. Dylan Thoreau thought about it. He tried to go to the bottom to take the lead away, but Dylan Young had a little more speed off of the outside and was able to keep it together and keep the race lead. Although here comes a little bit of a tandem. Kyle Matthews pushing Jay Jefferson in the 87. Now, Jay Jefferson's been very frustrated over the last couple of races. Right now he's having a very good run, although now he's caught in the middle as now you got a bunch of cars going to the bottom. Oh, Carson Gunn, that's the first instance I see of a car getting into the outside wall from running very high on the racetrack. Joshua Collard, the points leader, has found himself back up here into the top 10 battling. The top 3, however, have started to break away from everyone. Although Kyle Matthews, he's going to try and take second away from Dylan Thoreau. Though he has no help, and they're actually about to catch James Qualls, and this could really bunch up the top 21. Although Dylan Young going to go up, Matthews is going to get held up. The bottom lane's going to get held up as a result. Well, now Qualls trying to go up high, and he's going to hold up more drivers, as now the top 2 have broken away, but we got a battle for the lead. Dylan Thoreau with the run to the inside, as James Qualls holds up the middle line, led by Paul Minnick on back to Benjamin Miles. So this is really going to change the outcome of this race for sure, because now it may just come down to the top 2 up here unless these drivers can get bunched together and draft up here. But now Dylan Young has taken the lead back from Dylan Thoreau. Kyle Matthews still in third, but he's got Seth Cole behind him. Seth Cole, who has not had a very good season, he's looking for a bright spot, but they could catch Zachary Fitzwater next here momentarily. And then result of that, that could also really change things up, as now Kyle Matthews, with help from Seth Cole, going for a run underneath for second and gets by Dylan Thoreau. And now he's just got one more car to go, Dylan Young, but let's see what happens with Fitzwater as he's slow, and it's 2 laps to go. Look how fast they caught him right there. But it looks like Fitzwater is going to let them go as he goes up high, although Dylan Thoreau is going to get held up. And it looks like anyone who's going up high is going to get held up now. But that actually did help to bring more cars up here into the battle. As now McLeod, who was on the pole, I completely forgot about him. He's back up here at the front and now is trying to take second away. Or actually third away from Seth Cole, but Kyle Matthews still second, right behind probably the dominant car of the second half, Dylan Young. After that big one, it's just been mostly Dylan Young's race. And the white flag is waving here in the Pepsi 400. Time's running out for Kyle Matthews. He's going to have to hope to get a push from someone behind him in order to get more momentum, but it doesn't look like it's happening because Seth Cole, unless Seth Cole, who's getting pushed by Jake Rogers, can get up here, I don't know if we're going to see a pass for the lead. Because Kyle Matthews has got no drafting help, and he's got too much of a gap between himself and the 2 to get any momentum going to go for a move for the win. So it looks like the deal has been sealed, and we're coming out of turn number 4. Dylan Young going for his second win of the season, and he's going to get it. Checkered flag waving. Dylan Young wins the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. Second win of the season. I forget where he won his first race this season at, but nonetheless, he gets his second win. Only the 3rd driver this season to get multiple wins, along with Matt McIntyre and Dougie Shears. Dylan Young wins at Daytona. In his home state. Well, current home state is home state's Illinois, but you get the idea. But let's look at the rest of the results. Kyle Matthews, like I said, if he had gotten a push from someone there at the end, he could have had a shot at it, but still gets a great points day in the second spot. Seth Cole gets his first top 5 finish of the season in 3rd. Jake Rogers with another great finish, and that could really spike him up in the point standings. And then Preston Plordu came out of nowhere at the end and got a top 5. Chris Dollerton finishing out in 6th. Highest finishing rookie Diego Yepes in 7th. James McLeod finishes in 8th. DJ Curtis with a great rebound finish compared to last week at Old Spice gets 9th. And then Joshua Sekuli rounds out the top 10. And then there's the rest of your top 20, top 30. And then the rest of the field that finished, and then everybody from 35th on 40th all were out of the race after the big one on lap 10. But that does it for our coverage here at Daytona for the Pepsi 400. Next week we head to Kentucky Speedway, which is going to be an interesting race to say the very least. But until then, here are your results, rookie points, and regular points heading into Kentucky. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off.